The brass hands of the grandfather clock in Christopher Reynolds' study struck midnight as he signed the final document to purchase Crestwood National Bank. His weathered fingers traced the embossed letterhead, remembering another piece of paper from 40 years ago, a loan rejection that had changed the course of his life. In the soft lamplight, his mind drifted back to 1953, when his father, William Reynolds, would carry him on his shoulders through the back entrance of First Georgia Bank. 6-year-old Christopher would watch, perched on a stepladder, as his father mopped the marble floors after hours. William, with 3 degrees in mathematics and a mind sharp enough to calculate complex equations faster than any adding machine, would whisper numbers to his son as he cleaned. And quot, "Look there, Chris," and quot, he'd say, pointing to the ledgers left open on the bankers' desks. And quot, "They made 3 mistakes in their calculations today. That's $2,347 they'll have to find tomorrow." And quot, his father's soft chuckle held no bitterness, only a patient wisdom that Christopher wouldn't understand until years later. One evening, a young white banker had stayed late, struggling with a particularly complex mortgage calculation. William, unable to bear watching the man's frustration, had quietly approached and pointed out a simpler way to solve the problem. The next day, William was fired. And quot, "Can't have the help acting above their station," and quot, the bank manager had said. That night, William had gathered his family in their modest home. And quot, "Remember this," and quot, he told Christopher, his voice steady despite the day's humiliation. And quot, "Knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use it. They can deny us a seat at their table, but they can't stop us from building our own." And quot, those words became the foundation of Christopher's empire. Starting with 2 mops and a bucket borrowed from his father, he built Reynolds Cleaning Services. He hired other black workers who, like his father, held degrees but found doors closed to them. Together, they didn't just clean buildings, they studied them, understood them, improved them. By 1975, Reynolds Facilities Management had contracts with half the major buildings in Atlanta. Christopher's employees weren't just janitors, they were engineers, accountants, and business graduates who turned cleaning contracts into consulting opportunities. They noticed patterns, suggested improvements, saved their clients millions in operational costs. Yet the banking world remained resistant. Loan officers would smile politely at Christopher's impeccable business plans, then find creative reasons for rejection. The turning point came when he overheard a loan officer telling his colleague, and quot, "Sure, his numbers are good, but do we really want his kind handling our clients' buildings?" And quot, that evening, Christopher called a meeting of his most trusted advisors, all brilliant minds who'd faced similar discrimination. Among them was Dr. Angela Chen, a Yale-educated economist who cleaned offices at night while building an underground network of minority-owned businesses during the day. And quot, "We're not just going to knock on their doors anymore," and quot, Christopher announced. And quot, "We're going to own the building," and quot, the plan they devised was audacious. Over the next 15 years, they quietly purchased shares in regional banks through various holdings. They studied banking operations with the same attention to detail they'd applied to building management. They built relationships, gathered intelligence, and waited for the perfect opportunity. Crestwood National Bank was that opportunity. Once a symbol of old money and exclusion, it had fallen on hard times due to mismanagement and failure to adapt to changing demographics. When Christopher's team analyzed its practices, they found a pattern of discrimination hidden beneath layers of policy and procedure. The purchase was completed in secret through a maze of holding companies. Only a handful of board members knew the identity of their new majority shareholder. Christopher insisted on maintaining this anonymity while he conducted his own investigation into the bank's culture. For 3 months, he visited different branches under various guises. As a janitor, a customer, a confused elderly man. He watched, he listened. He documented every raised eyebrow, every subtle dismissal, every computer glitch that seemed to affect only certain customers. Sarah Chen, Dr. Chen's daughter and a recent hire at Crestwood, became his eyes and ears within the organization. Fresh out of business school, she had chosen to start as a teller to understand the bank from the ground up. Her reports to Christopher detailed the daily microaggressions that seasoned employees had learned to dismiss as just the way things are, and the story of James Martinez particularly caught Christopher's attention. A brilliant chef who had worked his way up from dishwasher to running 3 successful food trucks, Martinez had been denied a business loan 7 times. Each rejection cited different technical reasons, but Sarah's investigation revealed that similar applications from white business owners had been approved with less documentation. The morning Christopher walked into Crestwood National Bank, his father's cane tapping against the marble floors, he carried with him not just his father's wisdom, but the dreams and determination of 3 generations of people who had been told they didn't belong. Susan Bradley and Mark Thompson's treatment of him that day was exactly what he had expected. Their dismissive attitudes, their assumptions, their casual cruelty, all of it was documented by hidden cameras and noted by undercover observers placed strategically throughout the bank. What they didn't expect was Christopher's response to their discrimination. Instead of lawsuits or public shaming, he chose a different path. The emergency meeting he called a week later wasn't just about revealing his ownership, it was about beginning a journey of transformation. And discrimination isn't just morally wrong, and Christopher told the stunned employees. And it's bad business, and he projected spreadsheets showing the millions in lost opportunities. From rejected loans to qualified minority borrowers. He showed how competitor banks were thriving in diverse neighborhoods while Crestwood stagnated. The diversity program he implemented wasn't just about sensitivity training. It was a comprehensive overhaul of the bank's entire culture. He brought in success stories, minority business owners who'd been rejected by Crestwood but had succeeded elsewhere. He instituted blind loan application reviews. He created mentorship programs, pairing senior bankers with community leaders. Susan and Mark's transformation became the program's unexpected centerpiece. Susan discovered through genealogical research that her own grandmother, a Jewish immigrant, had been repeatedly denied banking services in the 1930s. This personal connection to discrimination changed her perspective entirely. Mark's evolution was more gradual. The role reversal exercises initially angered him, but a breakthrough came during a community outreach event. A young black entrepreneur reminded him of his own father, who had built a small business from nothing. Mark began to see how his own biases had blinded him to others' potential. Not everyone embraced the changes. Several board members resigned in protest. Some long-time customers withdrew their accounts. Anonymous letters appeared on Christopher's desk, filled with racial slurs and threats. But Christopher had anticipated this. For every account withdrawn, His network brought in 2 new ones. For every resigned board member, he appointed someone who shared his vision of inclusive banking. The hate mail he collected in a special folder labeled "motivation," The turning point came 6 months into the program. James Martinez, now approved for his loan, opened his first sit-down restaurant. The success of Casa Martinez became a symbol of what was possible when talent met opportunity. The restaurant's opening night saw bankers and community leaders dining together, barriers breaking down over plates of perfectly prepared paella. As Crestwood's success grew, other banks took notice. Christopher began receiving invitations to speak at banking conferences. Susan and Mark, once the faces of discrimination, became sought-after trainers for other institutions looking to change their cultures. Sarah Chen developed a revolutionary new system for evaluating loan applications that removed unconscious bias from the process. The Chen method would eventually be adopted by banks nationwide. The scholarship program Christopher established in his father's name began producing a new generation of diverse banking leaders. These graduates carried with them not just degrees, but a deep understanding of both banking and social justice. 5 years after that first morning with the tapping cane, Christopher stood in Crestwood's lobby during their Community Appreciation Day. The space was filled with people of all backgrounds, small business owners who'd received their first loans, families opening their first accounts, children dreaming of their own futures in finance. A young black girl tugged at his sleeve. Mr. Reynolds, she asked, could I be a bank president someday? Christopher smiled, remembering his father's words about building their own table. You can be anything, he told her. But remember, true success isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about making things right. That evening, after the celebrations, Christopher visited his father's grave. He placed his cane, the same one his father had used, against the headstone. You were right, Dad, he whispered. Knowledge is power. But love is what makes that power worth having. Today, Crestwood National Bank stands as more than just a financial institution. It's a testament to the power of transformative leadership and the possibility of genuine change. Christopher's model has been studied in business schools and implemented in institutions worldwide. But perhaps its greatest legacy lives in the small, daily moments of dignity now exchanged across banking counters everywhere. In the dreams made possible through fair lending. In the careers launched through equal opportunity. In the communities strengthened through financial inclusion. Christopher Reynolds, now in his twilight years, still visits the bank regularly. His cane still taps against the marble floors, but now it echoes with a different sound. Not of exclusion, but of welcome. Not of prejudice, but of possibility. Not of power wielded, but of wisdom shared. For in the end, the price of prejudice wasn't just measured in dollars and cents, but in human potential denied. And its remedy wasn't found in punishment or retribution, but in the harder, more rewarding work of transformation. One heart, one mind, one institution at a time. The end.